Today we'll talk about sensory periods for language acquisition. The cultural background. People of different background culture come into the world with similar genetic temperaments. As an example, Venezuelans prefer closer interpersonal distance than Japanese, who prefer greater interpersonal distance. Humans are distinguished from proto-chimpanzees ancestors by the way that we are able to learn and accumulate cultural information. Our foundations as humans are shaped by our experiences in a broad array of cultural environments. Sensitive periods. There is enough evidence that our human brain is programmed to learn a cultural meaning system. Sensitive period is the time where we develop the easy skills needed for our future. If we fail to acquire these set of skills, it will be twice as complicated to learn it later on in life. Language is part of these skills that tie alongside with the growth of our brain. As we are exposed to language, we begin to acquire sounds and relate these with our native language. Bilingual children. An example given by the book explains how Henry, who is a 15-year-old, and Walter is 14, both immigrated from Germany to the United States. Both brothers, however, learned English. The only difference was the accent. As we can see, the sensitive period for Henry was already up since he had already a much stronger accent than Walter, who was still in the gap of sensitive period. When bilinguals were placed on fMRIs to detect their brain activity, researchers found interesting facts. Bilinguals who learned a second language later in life showed one part of the brain active when their second language was heard, and another part of their brain when their native language was heard. Bilinguals who learned a second language early in life showed activation in the same area of the brain despite of hearing their native language or second language learned. And these are the part of our brain that's activated. Children deprived from language. Language deprivation happens when a language isn't learned during early childhood, leading to future psychological problems. There are neurological long-term consequences with these languages skills don't really develop. Due to ethical issues, there's no research done to test children that have been deprived from society because it's hard or to say it's complicated and impossible to just grab a child and let them not be part of society or be with their parents for years just for the sake of research. Nevertheless, there are a few stories mentioned in the book, such as a Cambodian woman that lived in the jungle from ages 8 to 26 that later had issues fitting into society. And this is her. These pictures are from the book. Let's see. The mental health. Medical professionals have determined that people who are deaf and use hearing aids and cochlear implants does not necessarily mean their mental health will be healthy. The quality of life among deaf people is poor and develop more emotional distress in comparison to the general population. When there is a lack of language, there is also a lack of sensation or clarity when a message wants to get across. This frustration leads to isolation in kids that have recently immigrated to a new country, like myself. Extreme cases. Feral children. They are children who have not been exposed to human contact or belong to a culture. The lack of human care and the way they have experienced severe abuse or trauma has led them very, very, very just hurt mentally. And as we can see these pictures, minimal scientific evidence is found. Improvement in their environment, latest by middle childhood, can have some improvement in speech and language development. Genie. Um, this is the worst child abuse in the history of USA. Psychological issues ranging from deprivation of human interaction, starvation, tormented, abused. Her father never wanted children, hated noise, was short-tempered, and never showed affection to Jeannie. Her mother suffered from cataracts, was abused, and occasionally fed for Jeannie. For 13 years, Jeannie lived in her bedroom and had no social interaction. She did not develop any language or communicated like whatsoever. If only her way of communicating was just in moans and cries. That's her only way. She never developed any language. Nothing. Her brain size was the size of a 3-year-old, basically. And just as a summary, language acquisition goes in hand with the development of the brain. Sensory period is a period in time that allows humans to acquire a set of skills needed throughout the development of their lifespan. Children abuse and lack of environmental and social norms can detriment the ability to develop a healthy brain. Culture and language are part of our development to function in today's society. And these are my references. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed this.